Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with young Brandon Lee at Bruce Lee's home in Los Angeles in 1973. The NBA star was Bruce Lee's student and appeared alongside him in Game of Death. Brandon, then 8 years old, would die tragically in 1993 during the filming of The Crow, echoing his father's early death. Liberty cuffs from the 1940s, the embroidered cuffs American sailors secretly sewed inside the sleeves of their uniforms. Embroidered with dragons and other Oriental motifs, they were technically forbidden by naval regulations, but tolerated as an informal tradition of pride and identity among enlisted men. Willie Nelson photographed in 1970. During that period, Nelson was known primarily as a songwriter producing hits for other artists in Nashville. Frustrated with the system, he would move to Texas and help create the outlaw country movement, ultimately becoming one of the greatest icons of American music. Behind the scenes with Marilyn Monroe on the set of Love Nest in 1951. That was a transitional year for the actress, still in supporting roles under contract with 20th Century Fox. 2 years later, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire would make her the biggest female star in the world. Billie Holiday at the Newport Jazz Festival in 1954. The singer was then facing serious health problems and addiction, but retained the unmatched expressive power of her voice. Newport had been founded the previous year and would become the most prestigious jazz festival in the world in the decades ahead. The April 3, 1959 edition of Saturday Manga with Midori Miho as cover model. Post-war Japanese illustrated magazines combined comics, photography, and reporting, and were fundamental in forming the Japanese cultural industry that would produce manga and anime as global phenomena in the decades that followed. Janis Joplin and Grace Slick at Woodstock in 1969. The two were the most powerful female voices of American psychedelic rock, Joplin with Big Brother and Slick with Jefferson Airplane. The festival gathered 500,000 people and became the definitive symbol of 1960s counterculture worldwide. A postal carrier in Los Angeles, California in 1917. The American Postal Service was then one of the country's most trusted institutions and an important source of stable employment. Los Angeles was growing rapidly during that period, driven by the oil industry and the nascent film business in Hollywood. John Waters and Edith Massey in 1982. Massey was one of the Baltimore director's signature actresses, a member of the group known as the Dreamlanders. Waters built a deliberately transgressive and trashy body of work that became an absolute reference point for underground cinema and influenced generations. Harold Robbins on his yacht in Cannes in 1975. The American writer was one of the best-selling authors of the 20th century, with more than 750 million copies sold. His novels about sex, power, and money defined the bestseller genre and funded an ostentatiously luxurious lifestyle on the French Riviera. Ed Sullivan and Mick Jagger talk on set during the Rolling Stones' 4th appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. The program was decisive in spreading British rock across the United States, but Sullivan frequently demanded that bands alter lyrics deemed inappropriate for the American family audience. Catherine Thomas, known as the Great Cat, photographed in 1987. A Juilliard-trained violinist, she abandoned traditional classical music to create an extreme fusion of heavy metal and classical virtuosity, playing pieces by Paganini and Beethoven at extreme speeds on electric guitar and violin. Bodybuilding pioneers at Muscle Beach, California in 1979. The Santa Monica Beach became the cradle of American fitness culture beginning in the 1930s, attracting athletes, acrobats, and gymnasts. It was there that bodybuilding ceased being marginal and became a mass cultural phenomenon worldwide. A young B.B. King in 1951, in shorts, at the Handymen's Club in Memphis, Tennessee, with Evelyn Young at left. That year, King scored his first major hit with 3 O'Clock Blues and began the trajectory that would establish him as the most influential blues guitarist in the entire history of the genre. The Woodstock Festival in 1969, held on a farm in New York State, the event gathered roughly 500,000 people over 3 days of music, rain, and logistical chaos. It became the ultimate symbol of counterculture and the definitive landmark of a generation that believed it could transform the world. Sam Neill at the Cannes Film Festival in 1981. The New Zealand actor had distinguished himself in Australian and European cinema before achieving international recognition. During that period, he was presenting Possession by Andrzej Żuławski, a film now revered as among European cinema's most disturbing. Tom Jones with friends in the summer of 1973, minus the sock he legendarily stuffed into his trousers during performances. The Welsh singer was one of the greatest crowd phenomena of the era, known both for his powerful voice and the effect he had on the female audiences at his sold-out concerts. Visitors seated in the center of the lobby of an MGM hotel in Las Vegas in 1994. That year saw the opening of the MGM Grand, then the largest hotel in the world with more than 5,000 rooms. The city was undergoing radical transformation, betting on themed mega-resorts aimed also at family tourism. Jimmy Page performing with the Firm in Toledo in 1986. After Led Zeppelin ended in 1980, the guitarist formed the Firm alongside Paul Rodgers, former vocalist of Free and Bad Company. The project lasted 2 albums and represented Page's first consistent undertaking of the 1980s decade. Someone Plays Asteroids in 1980. Released by Atari in 1979, the game became one of the biggest successes of the golden age of arcades, selling more than 70,000 machines. Its vector graphics and addictive gameplay defined an entire generation of players and influenced decades of game design. A Fijian man with a whale-tooth necklace, photographed by John William Waters in Fiji in 1884. Sperm whale teeth, known as tabua, are objects of the highest ceremonial value in Fijian culture, used in formal requests, marriages, and reconciliations, and never treated as mere decorative ornament. Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Steven Spielberg on the set of Jurassic Park in 1993. The film revolutionized visual effects by convincingly combining animatronics with computer graphics for the first time, becoming the highest-grossing film in history at that point and redefining cinema's technical possibilities. Gary Owens and attendees at the 1982 San Diego Comic-Con. Owens was a legendary announcer, known for the voice narrating the program Laugh-In and for voicing Space Ghost. Comic-Con was growing rapidly during that decade, gradually transforming into the largest pop culture event anywhere in the world. Friends gathered at an H.F. Stifel in the 1990s. The festival, organized by radio station WHFS in Washington, was one of the largest alternative rock events in the United States, gathering tens of thousands of people annually to see bands that defined the decade's sound, from grunge to Britpop. Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani at the Cannes Film Festival in May 1981. The two were presenting Possession by Andrzej Żuławski, a film that earned Adjani the Best Actress award at the festival. The now revered work is considered one of the most extreme performances ever recorded in cinema history. Children in the Netherlands in 1904. The early 20th century was a period of social transformation in the Netherlands, with advancing industrialization and the expansion of compulsory education. Traditional clothing and wooden clogs still predominated in Dutch rural communities during that era of change. Tony Sirico and Robert Downey Jr., who appeared together in the 1987 comedy The Pickup Artist. Sirico, who years later would become famous as Paulie Walnuts in The Sopranos, had a real past connected to organized crime. Downey Jr. was then a promising young member of Hollywood's Brat Pack generation, the crew of a staghound armored car from the 1st King's Dragoon Guards shelters from the sun under an improvised umbrella. Staghounds were American-built reconnaissance vehicles used by British and Commonwealth forces during the North African and Italian campaigns of the Second World War. Madonna and Michael Jackson at the 1991 Academy Awards. The two biggest names in world pop attended the ceremony together, generating enormous press speculation about a possible romance. Madonna performed that night singing Sooner or Later, the winner of the award for Best Original Song. The Rock am Ring Festival in Nürburgring, Germany in June 1987. Held at the Nürburgring racing circuit, the festival was created in 1985 and quickly became the largest rock event in Germany, gathering hundreds of thousands of people annually and hosting the biggest names in international rock music. French singer and actor Francis Lalanne photographed in 1981. Lalanne was a popular figure in French music during the 1980s, with romantic songs that dominated the country's radio stations. Decades later, he would also become known for his controversial political positions and public activism in France. John Carpenter and Kurt Russell on the set of Big Trouble in Little China in 1986. The partnership between director and actor produced some of the most influential cult films of the 1980s, including Escape from New York, The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China, all revered today by fans and critics. Hydraulic engineers from Boving & Co. at Ranasfoss, Norway in 1917. The British company specialized in hydroelectric turbines and participated in the electrification of Norway, a country that harnessed its abundant waterfalls to become one of the most hydroelectricity-dependent nations in the entire world. A 1952 photograph showing Sylvester Stallone and his younger brother Frank. The two grew up in New York under difficult circumstances. Frank would pursue a musical career, composing songs for his brother's films, including tracks on the soundtracks of Rocky and Rambo throughout the following decades. Robert Duvall holds a card with Marlon Brando's lines during the filming of The Godfather around 1972. Brando refused to memorize dialogue and demanded cards be placed around the set, a practice that irritated the production, but which he defended as a way of preserving spontaneity in his performance. 64 years ago, under the name Rolling Stones, the band played its first show in London. The concert at the Marquee Club in July 1962 marked the beginning of one of the longest careers in music history. The original lineup included Brian Jones, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ian Stewart. Lee Van Cleef rehearses with Kurt Russell on the set of Escape from New York, John Carpenter's science fiction classic. Van Cleef, a veteran of Italian spaghetti westerns, played Commissioner Bob Hawke. The 1981 film created in Snake Plissken one of the most iconic anti-heroes in genre cinema history. The Traveling Wilburys in 1988. From left to right, Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, and Roy Orbison. The supergroup was born almost by accident during a recording session and produced one of the most celebrated albums of the decade, uniting 5 absolute rock legends as equals. A young woman at a Rolling Stones show in London in 1969. That was a decisive year for the band, marked by the death of Brian Jones in July, and by the free concert in Hyde Park that gathered hundreds of thousands of people, transformed into a posthumous tribute to the band's founding guitarist. House of Cards, by Charles and Ray Eames, a construction toy launched in 1958. The American design couple, famous for their chairs and modernist architecture, also created toys reflecting their design philosophy, simple, elegant, and capable of stimulating the creativity of both children and adults. Actress Myrna Loy photographed in the 1930s. Loy became one of MGM's biggest stars, especially through the Thin Man series alongside William Powell. She was voted Queen of Hollywood in 1936 and later devoted herself intensively to political activism and humanitarian work with the United Nations. Rick Astley, singing on the German program Die Spielbude in 1987, photographed by Frank Hempel. That year, Never Gonna Give You Up reached #1 in 25 countries. Decades later, the song would gain unexpected new life as the internet phenomenon known worldwide as Rick-rolling among online communities. The Indian national football team at the 1997 Nehru Cup in Kollam, Kerala. The international tournament was held in India between 1982 and 1997, bringing together national teams from several continents. Kerala is historically among the Indian states with the greatest football tradition in a cricket-dominated nation. Audience at a Grateful Dead show in East Rutherford, New Jersey on August 3, 1994. The band cultivated one of the most dedicated fan communities in music history, the Deadheads, who traveled the country following every performance and formed a genuine itinerant culture entirely of their own making. The Ford Hunger March in 1932. Thousands of unemployed workers marched to the Ford plant in Dearborn, Michigan during the Great Depression. Police and company security opened fire, killing 5 demonstrators. The episode decisively accelerated unionization efforts throughout the American automobile industry. Conrad Veidt in The Man Who Laughs from 1928. The German actor played Gwynplaine, a character whose face had been mutilated into a permanent grin. The image would directly inspire the visual creation of the Joker in Batman comics in 1940, becoming one of silent cinema's most enduring influences. Colorized photograph of Jack Pierce retouching Lon Chaney Jr.'s Wolfman makeup during production of House of Dracula in 1945. Pierce was Universal's legendary makeup artist, responsible for creating the iconic looks of Frankenstein, the Mummy, and the Wolfman that defined classic horror cinema. Chuck Norris photographed alongside a martial arts instructor around 1979. Norris had been a world karate champion before moving into cinema, where he would build a decades-long career in action films and become, much later, an improbable phenomenon of internet culture through countless viral jokes. Nastassja Kinski photographed in 1983. The German actress, daughter of actor Klaus Kinski, had achieved international fame with Roman Polanski's Tess and with Cat People. During that same period, she would work with Wim Wenders on Paris, Texas, considered one of the great films of the 1980s decade. Actress Lorraine Day photographed in the 1940s. Day starred in dozens of films during Hollywood's golden age, including Alfred Hitchcock's Foreign Correspondent and the popular Dr. Kildare film series. She was also a public figure known for her devotion to the Mormon Church throughout her long life.